Welcome to Positivity in Action, the podcast where we explore the power of positive psychology in everyday life and during life's toughest moments. I'm your host, Tracy. I run Truly Listening. And as each week, we are going to dive into inspiring stories of how people have used positive psychology to overcome hardship, build resilience, and create meaningful lives. From self compassion, personal growth, and to strength found in community, we're here to shine a light on positive practices that help us rise above the noise of negativity that's in this world. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to this week's podcast. We are here with Asha Clearwater, and she is going to share with us how she brings positivity in action into her world. And Asha, if you could introduce yourself, and we'll get going from there.
Hello, I'm Asha Clearwater. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction, Tracy. Good to be here. I'm a content coach, book mentor, and publisher. I'm also a shamanic healer and a human. I try to be a good one, sometimes not so well, sometimes well. You know, life goes on as it does. For me, writing is my thing. It always has been. Books, writing, creativity. Since I was as young as like 4 or 5, I can remember my mum reading amazing stories to me and encouraging me to tell my own stories, which were amazing. And that was always my go-to place. If I was having difficulty in my life as a teenager, as a youngster, as an adult, even now, if I struggle with things, I always go back to my writing because that's my safe space. So that's really important for me. I work with a lot of people on a one-to-one basis now. I've just finished ghostwriting my first book for a client, which is amazing. She's a Paralympian, former Paralympian, whose husband won bronze at the Paris Paralympics this year. So that's been an absolute pleasure, joy, privilege, and huge learning curve for me. Talk about positivity. This incredible woman, and I won't spoil it too much, but wait and see the book, which is coming out very soon. There's my one plug of the session.
We'll have to put the link in the comments or in the
Yeah, we will
description
do.
below for everyone.
Well, thank you. That would be fantastic. And that has given me so much joy. It's also challenged me quite a bit because my confidence sometimes takes a real dent, and I do struggle quite a bit with my writing. I've been writing, as I said, professionally since I was 18, but still have those days, those moments where I think, is it good enough? Is my prose good enough? Am I good enough with my clients? You know, all of that stuff. We all get that self-doubt from time to time. And for me, one of the things that really brings me out is it's that change body, change state. Go and do something different, move. What I've realized is as a kid, I spent so much time stuck in front of a TV and didn't move for hours. I'm going to show my age a bit now for some of your older ones in the audience. And TVs were actually around then, believe it or not, they were.
Really?
Yeah, they were. It's incredible. Yeah, I know. Yeah, square wheels on your cars and red flags at the front. No, anyway, I'm not quite that old. What I remember really well is whenever I had a moment, I would sit and just watch TV, and it was like multicolored swap shop. That's how old I am. So 1970s
You've
time,
lost
and I'd
me.
sit
I'm
like,
sorry.
okay, Noel Edmonds was the presenter. Anybody that's watching this will recognize it. But I used to just sit and watch the telly. And then I'd get stressed about things and I'd just sit in that stress. I wouldn't do anything to move myself out of it. And for me, physically now, what I've realized as I've got older is for years and years, probably the first 35 years, 40 years of my life, I just sat in it. I didn't do anything to move myself out of that state into a more positive state. So one of the things that made such a huge difference to me was understanding what helps me with anything that's going that's going wrong for me as I perceive it. If I can actually move out of that physically, so do something physically to change my state, it's a real game changer for me. So one of the things I learned really quite recently, only in the last 3 or 4 years, is that we have absolutely we've got an exercise bike. So during lockdown, when times were tough for a lot of people, it would be about I'm gonna stop that going on. Can't you? Taz, could you stop doing that, please?
For anyone listening, we're having a fly that is trying to land on the screen quite frequently. So as is Ash's wife, who is currently fly hunting, which is the noise in the
background. So we're getting really into that. Thanks, Taz. Cheers for your fly hunting capability. So I love this show already. It's so fabulous. I'm having a hot flush. It's all good. So one of the things
perfectly human, Asha, perfectly human.
Well, apparently so, kind of most days. but it was changing body, change state. So one of the things I learned during lockdown was I bought myself an exercise bike, and I started using this exercise bike. We couldn't go far, we had to stay fairly local. So to do something to get me moving was using an exercise bike. So I started doing it, and then I got a bit all or nothing. So I was doing like 30, 40K on it. I can
Mm.
remember when the Lionesses, I love football, by the way, I'm a huge Lionesses fan, when they were playing in the final of the Europeans, which we won. Um, it was, I played through the whole match. I mean, I actually cycled through the whole match. So for those
That's
90 minutes, and then
amazing.
it went into extra time.
Oh.
And it allowed me to really expend some of that energy that I get really nervous when I love watching them. But actually, I found actually from childhood, I'd always followed football and supported England with my dad. But we used to get so stressed, and there would be a lot of unresolved emotions around that we didn't deal with. We just kind of, I laugh and joke about it now, but actually, it wasn't healthy. And we
Yeah.
just sit in that energy again, which isn't good for us. So I thought, what can I do to take myself out of that and actually do something physically to help me through? And that was one of the things I did. I lost quite a bit of weight on it. Unfortunately, I've put on a bit since then, but I was doing like 60, 70K. I think by the end of the match, I'd hit the 100K mark.
Oh my God, that is amazingly impressive. I do not know how you
I
did it.
know, because I was just carrying on. And actually, what was really funny when it got to kind of the second half, and then Germany equalised, and then it went to extra time, and then when we got the winner eventually, um, I found myself, I'd done all this and hadn't realised, but it kept me
Mm.
moving. It allowed me to expend some of that energy in a positive way. So I know that's extremes. It's probably not the best thing to do all the time because you've got to
Maybe
watch your
not aim for the
glutes.
100K,
No,
the Uber distances.
yeah, but that finding that physicality, and now whatever I'll try and do
Mm.
is, if I'm feeling like that, I'll try and get up and move, even if it is literally getting up, moving from sitting on the sofa or sitting here in the dining room and going outside to the garden and moving. Sometimes I do a
Yeah.
little bit of Tai Chi too. I find that really helpful. I've not gone to any official lessons as such, but I follow things online, and I'll just do, I
Mm.
want to bring that back in because I've let that go a little bit, and I notice when I'm not using these tools. So I'll use Tai Chi because there's something about that movement, that beautiful leg and arm movement, that full body movement, and breathing
Yeah.
deeply, that is hugely rewarding actually, and
I
can
think that
allow some of that
connection
energy.
with the energy and the movement and everything really flow and just helps you sit in a better state, doesn't it? It's,
Yeah, it does. It does.
can
And I,
you think of, you've given so many tips already. Can you think of a time that it was like really important for you to have these things? Something that kind of made you think, actually, I can't forget to have these in my life.
yeah, I mean, without a doubt, there was a huge change for me. Obviously, I've lost both my parents, and both parents have died. But when my dad died, I was a daddy's girl, definitely. I love my mum, but there was a real connection with me and my dad. My dad and I, it's bad English. But what happened then was I was really not dealing with that grief at all. I was just holding it again, staying in that space of all that grief unresolved. And it's been a gradual thing for me. But again, working with that, firstly, it was learning to talk about it, which I can find really hard to do that, which may sound amazing because I've done that very well for the last few minutes. But actually, when it gets to some of that more challenging emotion, I've
Mm.
always kept it in. So one of the first things that I found when Dad died, I started to talk about it. I saw a counsellor, which was a good starting point for me. I then went into sharing that a bit more with other people and knowing that it was a safe space to do that. That helped. But also remembering that going through that there were so many other things to be positive about in my life. Remembering the good
Mm.
things and the good memories around my dad and what that was like, and some of those positive things around sport, because we both shared this love of sport, armchair sport, admittedly, but
Yeah.
it was watching the Olympics, watching the football, watching, and the positive aspects of that, not going into some of that more difficult, challenging stuff, and that there was positives. Also, when I was 38, and I couldn't walk for about for 4 months, something like 3 or 4 months, and I got a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis,
Mm.
which meant for those weeks I was doubly incontinent. I couldn't move at all. I had to go upstairs to the loo on my bottom because I couldn't actually physically walk. And I knew that something needed to change for me. I was terrified because I'd grown up with a mum with MS as well. So
Mm.
I kind of knew what was coming, in inverted commas, but I say that loosely, but I was worried that that was going to be my fate too. So how my mum deteriorated quite quickly. But luckily for me, um, through my wife, my wonderful wife, flycatcher extraordinaire, Taz Thornton, um, we found somebody online who was just in the right space at the right time. And it wasn't me that reached out, it was actually Taz that reached out and asked him for advice. And we got chatting, we had a conversation, we had a session like this, we were chatting, and he was helping me with my diet, and working with him helped me regain a lot of my mobility. And within weeks, I was walking again. It also got me to look at what I was putting into my body, my physical body, which wasn't helping me particularly. And I was terrified, but at the same time hugely relieved when I was able to start getting mobile again. And that's how the whole cycling thing became a thing. I changed my diet. I went again, it worked for me. And this is not, I'm not what I would call a political vegan, but for me, going vegan, going plant-based really helped with my diet and with my physicality, with my mobility. So that was a huge turning point for me. And all the positives that came out of that was I had so much to learn about, you know, how you can make incredible food with lots of great veg, not eating convenience food, and doing the lazy approach, actually cooking something and enjoying the process. And that's been a
I
huge
know.
one for
I
me.
got to try your very yummy vegan breakfast the other week. That was now a staple in my house.
And what would that be?
That that was wheat bix soaked in soy milk with um yogurt, vegan yogurt on top with fruit that made smiley faces with the fruit.
Did. And actually, do you know, there's a funny story around that, because I think you know anyway, because I've told you this, but basically for your viewers and listeners, we put it onto what would formerly known as Twitter, on X, and I think it was Sainsbury's said, can we use this, because they loved it, because we took a picture of the smiley face. It's actually done with it's a yogurty type, I think it's a chocolate dessert that you can get that are out. I shouldn't give them, you could get it sponsored.
I know,
Okay.
that's what I
But
was even like.
but actually you could do that. It's a good one. But we got those, you put it on the top and then you put the fruit on the top of that, and we had smiley faces. They liked it so much they wanted to use it in their marketing campaigns. For look out
Oh
for that one.
wow. It's become a staple with me and my teenagers now. It's like I put it in the fridge and it disappears.
It's a great, because it's a nice sweet treat. There's worse things you can eat. Calorifically it's not too bad, and it's really filling, and it's just great, and it's fun, and that's what I like. And it taught me how to have fun with my food again as well, and enjoy it. I'm definitely not the cook in our house, so Taz is the cook. I'm the washer upper when I can be bothered.
Yeah. I hear you.
I'm the dishwasher apparently, occasionally, but yeah, but it puts a bit of fun. So that was a huge turning point, getting the MS diagnosis, coming back from that, and actually, this is sound weird, really weird. It won't do to you, I know, but it was actually the best thing that could have happened in many ways to me, because it gave me a real kind of wake up moment of, come on, what can I do to improve myself here? How can I help myself to move through this? And obviously that's not in any way belittling that, because I know there are so many people going through MS diagnosis right now. You know, there's 4 different types of MS, and it can affect us all very differently. So that's not in any way saying that, you know, I've got it made and I did the right thing and everybody else is not right in there, but it affects us all differently. So I feel very blessed that I came through it, and I'm able to walk today and cycle. You know, even I don't quite do the 100k these days, but you know, I do my best to do perhaps 20 or 30.
Thank you for adding that bit, because I don't think there is enough information out there about MS. It's one of those things that you just don't hear enough of. So I didn't even know there were 4 different types. So that's, you know, I'm sure we could probably go into a whole thing about those and really be here all day. But let's take it back. What
Okay.
if you had someone who was listening to this who was in a really hard place right now, and they're just starting out, trying to find a different way to move forward? What would your first bit of advice be? And I know you're amazing at this, so I'm waiting for a gold nugget here. So go for it, Ash. Throw one at me.
Well, the first thing is take a breath. I know we said that a lot, but really take a breath. Take that deep breath. Don't just take that fight or flight breath from up here. That's the first thing. Just take a moment. I've got verbal diarrhea. I speak very quickly, but I know that when I'm in a space, I do need to just calm it down and actually take that deep breath. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if it feels right to get that energy out in some way, whatever that may be, whether that's getting on your exercise bike, whether it's going out into the garden to do some Tai Chi, whether it's sitting and just breathing deeply from taking 5 minutes of meditation, whether it's writing it out. That's the other thing. I mean, obviously for me, it's got me out of so many difficult situations. I've allowed myself to express myself in a way. It might be painting as well. Painting's a great way to express things. We know from our own experiences of that one, where we've done some primal painting. That can be anything creative, if that's what floats your boat, if you think that might help. And even if you don't know if it's for you, just try it. That's the other thing I'd say. Just try something, just give it a go. I think writing for me has been such an absolute blessing in so many ways. I've been able to either write things out and use it productively to help other people, hopefully creatively, to put it out there in a way, either through a social post. And this isn't saying that we have to do it. If that feels right for us, we can do that. But sometimes it's just a very act of writing, getting it out of here and onto paper, or voicing it, using voice notes on our phone, can be a huge
Oh yeah.
thing. I've had a
I think
classic today with a client where that's happened, where she wasn't able to write it, but to actually voice it on voice notes,
mm,
it was enough for her. It was absolutely what she needed. She could let it go, let it move, and move on from it. I think that's important. Sorry, I interrupted you then, Tracy.
no, it's all right. I was just giving you a heads up. We have a huge thunderstorm that's just broken out above. So if anyone saw me jump out my skin, that's why.
Oh, is that
I mean,
why? Oh, God.
I wasn't jumping at what you were saying. There was this huge crack of thunder, and it's just made my dog go a little bit ape in the background. And yeah, go. So if I completely drop out on you,
Okay.
that's why we have
I
a
won't
huge
take it
thunderstorm coming
personally.
in. No, don't take it personally. I wasn't jumping on what you were saying. Thank you for your tips. I think I've worked with you for a while, and one of the most powerful teachings that has kind of come from you is to live in the moment and have fun and have laughter with it, and be ready to see the humor in things and laugh at yourself and sit in that space. And that for me was a game changer compared to when I first met you and I was all shy and quiet once. And nowadays I'm quite happy to join in the laughter, and that was a really big teaching for me that I think gets overlooked quite often.
Yeah,
There's
I
so many
agree.
self-help things, but humor gets missed.
It does. And I grew up with that, however tough it was for my mum who had MS. She went from walking to being in a wheelchair quite quickly. So she had quite
Mm,
a very quick deterioration, but she always found the laughter and the laughter medicine. She found that in everything she did. We had the most hysterically funny moments, where we'd go off on holiday, and I don't know, my dad was only little, was quite short, so he's wheeling mum with the wheelchair, and suddenly going down a dip in the road, and suddenly he's lost his footing, and mum's careering down towards a lake at the bottom of the thing, and she'd have hysterics. And absolutely, but she would find the laughter in there, and that would get us through. And I think sometimes we can forget that, and actually laughter with friends, with family, with others, that's a huge healing space for us. So we should do that every time we whether we're at work, we're at home, whatever we're up to. If we're going through a difficult spot, just find somebody that is going to help you raise a smile just for a few seconds. It just alleviates that pressure a little bit. So important, whatever we're doing. I do that with a
yeah.
lot of my business clients. I get them doing all sorts of weird and wonderful exercises, as in creative writing exercises, and they'll think, what relevance has this got for my business? Absolutely everything for you as a person. It brings out your creativity in such a powerful way. And this, you do this with
Yeah,
your clients as well.
I
You know,
do.
that's what makes life so interesting and fascinating and wonderfully magical for us all, that we
Mm,
can do that and we can share that with others. For me, that's one of the greatest healers there are, to be able to do that and share that
yeah.
enthusiasm for life and for life experiences, and for all those moments where things don't quite go according to plan, like thunderstorms and
Like
jumping out of your socks.
thunderstorms. Honestly, it was a huge crack of thunder. I was like, "Woo." And I love
Two
thunder,
sounds the
so it
worst
doesn't
thing.
normally bother me. But I was like, really? Where did it come from? Don't you love podcasts when they don't edit them and they just go straight live all the way through? Because this is the aim of this podcast, is to show reality. Not cutting out bits and bobs to make us sound a certain way. We're both human, we're both here, we're both on a journey through life and learning. And I think it's so important to hear every little bit of it, from fly catching to thunderstorms to cereal vegan things in the morning with smiley faces,
Definitely. I mean,
which
that's
is
it,
why I
isn't it?
invited you on.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's like, let's not sanitize it. Why do we feel the need to do that? And it
I
helps
know.
us create those incredible relationships. It brings us together as a people, doesn't it? When we do that, it makes it real and relatable. And I always talk about this in my content. When I get people to write content for their businesses, relatability rocks. It's the cornerstone of good writing. If we can do that, we can gain so much from it, and actually give that to our clients, our friends, our colleagues. in a much more powerful way. It's so important.
That's the thing, community is so important. I know I've had people who text me and say, oh, this that you've shown here. And I'm thinking that was a horrendous day. And I'm like, filmed this middle of the night video where I'm absolutely tired, struggling to sleep. And I thought, okay, I'll film because that is me expressing it and getting it out and working with that stuff myself.
Yeah.
And that's the video that someone's watched and then messaged me and said, that really helped me right now because it was real and
Yeah.
it was showing exactly where I am and that I'm not alone there. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
the only one struggling to sleep or struggling with anxiety or anything else.
Yeah.
People need reality. I think there's so much hidden in the world that we kind of go that direction.
Yeah, I think so.
But,
And it does take courage to take that first step out. You know, in many ways, I take the cheaty easy route, and that's going to change a bit since I'm back from my holidays. I'm feeling a little bit more inspired by things, because I've always one of my big acknowledgements for me has been, and I've said this to you before, and I trust you, but hiding behind other people's stories and other
mm,
people's, and there's, you know, because that's been my job to you know, put out their stories for them. So actually to share mine is a really challenging place to be in, actually,
yeah.
really quite uncomfortable. You know, it's about walking your talk, but actually showing that
Mm,
through your own content about you, and when you're having those tough days. So when I see you doing that, I am absolutely in awe of that. I think you're so brave and courageous for doing that, and I genuinely mean that. I think that's a really challenging thing to do, but it's so much more rewarding for you as well, isn't it? Because you're going to get all these connections with all these amazing people around you that say, that's me too, that has happened to me, that's going on
yeah,
for me right now. And I think sometimes we can lose
100%.
sight of that. And I think in sharing in that way, instead of trying to, you know, hide it but put it behind closed doors, you know, we can lose out, not just lose out for others, but also for ourselves. That's the
Yeah.
key thing, isn't it? So, you know, I'll be working on that. So thank you for inspiring me with that. Watch this
Thank you
space.
for coming on and sharing your story, especially if it's not one that you're comfortable with sharing so much. So I appreciate it. Right,
You're
I'm going to
welcome.
have one more question with you, and then I think I'm probably losing connection slowly here.
Okay.
Do you have any recommendations for people to go somewhere, podcast, books, something you just can't live without that brings out that positivity in you?
Oh, you know what? It's going to be a really random one, but you know, because
Okay.
I've talked about this before. Mr. Lumpy and Friends. It's this amazing lady who's got this incredible back garden that she's turned into a wildlife haven. We call her the Nut Fairy. And it started off because she's got badgers. A whole badger family's come to her garden to feed. She's looked cared for them. There's one that's very poorly at the moment, actually, that's not doing so well. But she does them these super mixes of food to get them on the road to recovery again. And sometimes when Mr. Bless him, Mr. Lumpy, may he rest in peace, bless him. But his ancestors, his, you know, his, what do I mean? The opposite of ancestors. Help me out. What do I mean? People that have come
The
after him.
babies.
Yeah, so
They
his
don't ask
babies,
me.
his grandchildren, and his children are still coming back to that same space. So you can look them up, Mr. Lumpy and Friends on Facebook. If I'm feeling down, I'll go there and look at pictures. Who would have thought any wildlife that's nibbling away at their food, but these beautiful creatures that are known as the British bear, because they're our nearest thing to bears in this country that we have remaining. They are beautiful, beautiful wildlife to watch, and to see them coming in and having their dinner and getting an egg that she supplied and that fairy supplied and rolling it off and back out into the wild wherever they go, back to their sets, cheers me up. So I'd recommend that. I'd also recommend finding somebody that really connects with you when you watch them, you know, online. So for instance, I like Gary V. He's quite hard hitting. It's not for everybody. He's quite outspoken, but I love the fact that he just says, give it a go. You've got a story
Mm,
to tell. Yours is as valid as anybody else's. You know, just because you may not have the big arc, the story arc that, you know, makes everybody go, oh my goodness me, that's amazing. You survived this, and this. There will always be something in your story that will be valid, not just for you, but for somebody else that you're going to help somebody with. So please try it. Do that if that feels right for you. And even if it's not right to share it this time, just get it out there and talk about it. Have it somewhere that you can use it to alleviate if you've got some of those stressful times, that you can just park it somewhere and actually let it out. I would say
yeah.
that too. So yeah, Mr. Lumpy and Friends for the win. It's got to be, honestly, it's got to be.
Oh, I must admit, I follow them too. So I'm with you. Anything that has cute, fluffy animals, and that is a definite stress reliever moment.
Isn't it? And also, you know, there's so many teachings in that as well. because this lady has given up her life, you know, really to look after these animals. And there's a lot of people that would say, oh, we shouldn't be feeding them, blah blah blah. But actually, for her to do that, the dedication she's shown, I think she should be on one of those things, you know, that sort of is it the Daily Mirror that do the Great Britons or whatever when they have an award ceremony every year?
Get
I
an
think she
award
should be one of
ceremony for her.
yeah, because she's
Yeah.
done so much, you know, she provides all the stuff and she looks after them. So what can we do to help in our local communities to look after others, whether it's four-legged, two-legged, or anything in between? So it's a great
100%.
reminder, isn't it?
Thank you so much for coming on here today, Asha. It's been so brilliant talking to you. I always love talking to you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It's great. Thank you.
I hope everyone who's listening has found this as inspiring and insightful as I did. Remember, positivity isn't a mindset, it's an actual practice that you can put effort into. And this is a sneaky thing on the end. Me and Ash next year will be creating something where we can have a space for healing and creativity, and where you can come and really share your story. So if you want to work with me and Ash together next year, then watch this space, people, and send us a message. I'm sure we can put you on an email list for it. So there you are. I'm plugging us, Ash.
Yay, looking forward to it. It's going to be fantastic. Can't wait to
I
see how that
know.
works out for us as well. It's going to be really good. It'll be a great space, a great healing and creative space. What a wonderful combination.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. Anyway, subscribe, rate, leave a review, tell us your stories and what positivity's brought to your life. And I will see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye.